Before scale crawling had exploded onto the mainstream, there was a fun little monster truck that accidentally helped shape the hobby's future. It was 2006 when HPI Racing released the Wheelie King, a 1/12 scale solid axle monster truck built for pure backyard fun. It had a twin vertical plate chassis, long travel suspension, and a setup so rear heavy it would pop wheelies on command. But here's the twist. That same solid axle design, four-wheel drive drivetrain, and rugged build made it surprisingly capable on the rocks. Crawling was still in its early days, and hobbyists started modifying their Wheelie Kings, stretching the wheelbase, locking the diffs, flipping the chassis, and moving the battery up front. The community basically built its own crawler out of a wheelie machine. And HPI noticed. By 2008, they leaned into it and released an official rock crawling conversion kit, followed by the Crawler King RTR, one of the first ready-to-run crawlers that you could buy off the shelf. It had longer lengths, softer tires, locked differentials, and more stability, turning that fun little stunt truck into a legitimate trail crawler. The Wheelie King and Crawler King might not have had the precision or scale detail of today's rigs, but they laid a lot of the groundwork. They helped prove that there was a real audience for crawling, and that even a truck built for wheelies could climb its way into RC history. Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC, everybody. I'm Ken, and today we're looking at something awesome from HPI. HPI has rock crawling in their DNA all the way back to the mid-2000s, where, like I said in the intro, they kind of had a monster truck that was easily converted into some sort of a rock crawler or trail rig back before there was anything off the shelf you could buy. So HPI has kind of been in there since the beginning, and it's awesome to see that they're continuing that lineage with this guy, the Venture 18 competition crawler, the Venture 18cc. This is going to be a very cool rig. We're going to check it out. It's got some interesting and unique features to it that a lot of other rigs don't have. Also, it looks pretty aggressive there, so we're going to check it out, see how it looks on the rocks. We're going to open it up a little bit for you, show you what's inside so you know what you're getting yourself into if you decide to pick one of these guys up. And yeah, we're just going to talk about small scale crawling and this awesome new rig and kind of what the Venture series has from HPI. If you're new to HPI and their small scale stuff, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then we'll compare it to some other rigs. We'll compare it in size just so you can kind of see how it compares to some of the other platforms and brands out there. All right, let's go ahead and open this up and dive into it. So before we rip this guy open, I do want to go over the box with you just a little bit. There's some stuff on the front here. Look at that. You can choose your scheme. 2 different liveries included sticker-wise. We also have some front hex hub weights, a Metal Gear half-dig transmission, disengage your rear drive for tighter turns and better traction. Something we've been looking for a long time in the small scale stuff is a dig transmission. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this is a full dig. They're calling it a half dig, which I think just is them basically releasing their rear end, basically turning it into a front wheel drive only vehicle, not necessarily locking the rear end, but we'll check that out. Aluminum TVP competition chassis, lower center of gravity chassis, lay down shocks, extreme articulation, all that kind of stuff. Again, hopefully it's not too much articulation. It just kind of makes a rig sloppy, but I'm sure they've definitely balanced it out. There's your dimensions. And look at all this good stuff. Treads Rover tires, brass inner wheel weights, in addition to those brass hex weights, which is pretty awesome. So there should be a good amount of weight down low. Then you're using their Flux ESC. So this is the brushless Flux. They're using a 1.5 kilogram metal geared servo, oil-filled shocks. Outrunner, it's a 3500 kV. They have a 3S LiPo, so this guy is 3S, which is awesome to see. And then some oversized 1.3 inch wheels. Again, we'll get into the details on this guy. There's those awesome stickers we mentioned. It's got kind of a cool topography look to them. That's neat. I dig that. And then we've got, look at that. This adds to your transmitter, so you can do thumb steer. Looks like we also have extra plug here. Don't know what that's for. I guess in case you need to swap plugs. We also have our charger. This looks like a 2S. Huh. Curious what that's about. And there's some screws. What else we got here? I don't know. We'll open this up in a minute. Yeah. So we got the gunmetal gray. There is also a green. I dig the gray. They have the green on the box. Can you see it? No, guess not. We'll show you a picture of the green one right over here. And then our HPI transmitter. This is a Fly Sky transmitter. I'm trying to find the branding here. It's all branded HPI, but it is a Fly Sky, and these are awesome transmitters. Love all the dip switches to quickly and easily change stuff. We have all of our trims here: throttle dual rate, throttle trim, steering dual rate, steering trim. So you can turn down that stuff if you need to for somebody younger on that throttle, and then turn up your dual rate all the way, get that maximum steering angle. Reverse steering, reverse throttle, and then our dip switches. Okay, lots of channels here on this guy though. It's a 6 channel, excuse me. Channel 3, channel 4, channel 5, channel 6, which is a 3 position, and then obviously our channel 1 and 2 here. I love that it's HPI branded. Very cool. This transmitter is very good. It's used on a lot of different RTRs, and it's fantastic. But let's look at this guy. Look at these sliders. I love the angled skid on that guy. That is a massively angled skid. There's a nice close-up of those sliders and that angled skid. Look at how high clearance these links are. Super high clearance links here. It is an aluminum chassis plate. That's a 2mm thick aluminum plate. Looks really good. I like that little bevel on it to get that silver effect. Super sweet looking, very high quality. We even got metal drive shafts in here. It mentions new 4mm longer front and rear drive shafts to give the car a wider stance. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe they just mean a longer wheelbase, not necessarily a wider stance here. I believe these are the same axles that are on the other Venture 18s, so there shouldn't be any difference there. Again, we'll bring out the we have the Hilux, so we'll compare it to that. Unfortunately, we do not have the Bronco, but it should be pretty much the same as the other two. But I will show those in comparison. I believe these have a little bit wider hexes on them. And we'll measure things out. Looks like the rear might be a little wider than the front. I don't know. I got to check that right now. It's like we're at 128 outside to outside on those tires. No, front's the same, 128. Just an optical illusion. Got little pink dots. I'm sure that's indicating the compound. We must be in our dig because we got free rolling going there. They're calling this their super soft pink compound. So they are 1.3s again, and these are true bead locks. So you can unbolt them, put different tires on these wheels. If you want to use these wheels, put different wheels with these tires. If you want to reuse these tires, they're not glued on, which is awesome. I hate when wheels and tires get glued, especially on crawlers, just because we always like to swap things around. Sometimes you want to use these tires on a different rig or with different wheels, and sometimes you just want, different wheel with these tires, vice versa, whatever. You get the point. Being able to swap things around is always super nice. Servo on axle, oil-filled shocks. It's aluminum cap, aluminum bottom cap, top cap. The center shock housing is plastic, but we do have an aluminum preload collar here, so that's nice. I love the little HPI branding on the chassis there. All right, let's go ahead and open this guy up here. It's a little flip of this switchy here. Here we go, this way. And the whole thing lifts up. The cage is attached to the Lexan, but it's a very cool cage, injection molded. And this gas back here, people are going to pull that out and put a tire in there, spare tire, stuff of that nature, maybe a hitch if you really want to pull something with your competition crawler. But that's cool that that's on there. Single screw can pull that off. And then here's underneath. Look at that. Look how flat it is. Just want to point that out. And this is with the dig servo, guys. So it's sitting super flat, basically lower than the front shock tower. Super low. Just trying to get the wires out of the way. It's basically just wires. But look at that. Holy compact, guys. I love the placement of this shift servo or dig servo. Just kind of sits real low, real flush. Super, super clean and compact there. Love that. Our motor is plugged in here, so we could always unplug that. It's a separate plug, which is nice. We're using a little XT30. Let's get this battery out of here. And then our plasma 3S 360 milliamp hour LiPo. It's 10C rated. Again, awesome that it comes with a little XT30. This is AMAS. Look at that. So official plugs. That's good because sometimes there's like knockoff versions of these plugs and they just tend to not hold, or they'll short out, they get loose, things of that nature. What's our little warning here? This is warning, make sure you always disconnect your battery. Yes, guys, always make sure you disconnect your battery when you're done using it. Never leave your batteries plugged in. It's not a good idea. There's that Flux 18 in there, the 1621 3500 kV motor, and that Flux 18 ESC. This is Hobby Wing based, so it's basically a RTR version of the Hobby Wing Mini 24 is what they're calling it, I believe. Either way, their crawler ESC and motor, super smooth. We will show that. I love that we've got our full-size plugs in here for our ESC receiver, and you've even got your open channels there. Channel 5 and channel 6 are opened, as well as an LED slot, which is super awesome if you want to add rock lights, things of that nature. This guy feels buttery smooth here. Look at that. I love the high clearance links. It's interesting that they chose to put the kink or the bend up here. A lot of times you put them in the back here, but you're really getting a lot of clearance by doing that. So I think that was the right move, HPI. The sliders are awesome. They help keep the body tucked, so your body's not getting caught. They also have these little kind of curved sections. Same over here with our battery strap. It's kind of curved, which is nice. Hopefully that'll help reduce any kind of catching on rocks. Looks like overall they did a good job though. One thing of note is it's not bearings, but it is bushings. So it is going to be a little bit better if you get that wet, but if you really want to kind of reduce resistance and friction, you might want to go with a bearing upgrade. But that's pretty common on these small crawlers to find bushings. They like to try to make sure that the maintenance is very low for newer people. With bearings, if you get any kind of wet, moisture, dirt, mud, stuff like that, bearings can easily start to rust and corrode and have issues. And then you got to always make sure you're maintaining your bearings, especially with any kind of moisture. But the bushings just kind of alleviate all that. So it makes sense. It's a cost saver for sure, but an easy upgrade. All right, kind of want to power this guy up and just kind of feel how that shift, the dig, half dig is feeling. Let me charge up this battery real quick. While we're waiting for that battery to charge, let's just go through the goodies here. Again, we got our 3S USB charger. I always recommend to people, if you're going to be using your trucks a lot and you've got multiple rigs, I highly recommend getting a hobby grade charger, but this will work in a pinch. We also have our included little hex key. Again, our thumb steer, we'll install that real quick. I'm still not sure what this is for. And then we've got tons of literature here. I think this is just basic safety information. Here's our truck specific exploded views and part numbers, all that good stuff. There's that transmission exploded view of that. Axles, all that good stuff, guys. Quick start guide here, just talking about the truck and how to get started with it. Oh, another thing about this transmitter I want to point out, you can run a 2S LiPo in there. So that's pretty awesome. Just use that red JST. That way you can run LiPo. Super, super convenient. Really dig that. Anyway, basic stuff here. Super basic, but that'll get you started. And then our awesome sticker sheet. I love that. I think I figured it out. It's if you want to go brushed for some reason, it's just an extra plug, I guess. And then this little rubber grommet is like it's kind of like a Futaba connector, but it's just rubbery. I don't know what the purpose of this is, other than to cover up one set if you're trying to protect your pins. Again, I don't know. I don't know what these are really included for, but if you ever want to go brushed, now you've got a plug for it. You can swap over your brushless to brushed, I guess. Don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and swap this over to while we're at it. We're going to add our little thumb steer, which is awesome. I love that HPI includes that. Single screw in that middle, pulls this right off. Then we can just drop our little thumb steer on, like so. Okay, and then two little screws. Easy peasy. Drop this guy on. Put our screw back in. Yeah, I dig that. Definitely helps for people that drive one-handed. If you're filming with the other hand, in that one-handed steer. I like it. All right, batteries in, all plugged in. Turn on the transmitter, turn on the ESC. Beep, beep, beep. 1, 2, 3 for 3S. And there we go. Which one's the dig? Channel 3 for dig. It's a little bumping, I think, because we have so much droop here. It's dropping down so much that it's causing the drive shafts to kind of bump a little bit. That's what that bumping is. Because when you compress them, you don't have that. All right, let's go ahead and just feel that slow crawl. Super smooth. It's kind of a jump there, just a little bit. But there's no real crazy transition, but it does kind of, it bumps a little bit if you're not super steady on the throttle. And then that rear dig is interesting. And it's not a true dig. There's still, again, it's freewheeling, which is interesting. It's not quite the same as dig. A true dig locks the rear end, and it literally gives you a ton of steering. It like essentially pulling itself around like that, right? That's what a dig would do. But being open wheeled, basically freewheeling, it's just front wheel drive. I really wish it would have locked out. Maybe in a future version they can do that. Having it just free wheels, not necessarily ideal. Sometimes we use dig even in reverse. So you'll like lock the rear and then reverse and it'll push the truck, you know, like that. And you're able to reposition. And the whole point of dig is to be able to control your front end a little better. But when you have it open like this, it doesn't actually do a whole lot. It will give you a little bit better steering angle or turn radius. And maybe we'll go out and I'll show you, I'll demonstrate that, but it's not going to be a ton. It would be nice to have overdrive in this guy, because right now we do not have overdrive. I don't believe. Let's test. Give our little mark here, a little mark here. We'll see if they change. Distance. Oh yeah, there is overdrive. That's good. See the marks? Now we're caught back up, and now we're passing. Nice. So that's good. That's good. That'll help with steering the turn radius as well. Another thing I want to show you is your channel 4 actually is being used with the ESC to adjust your drag brake on the fly. So right now we have pretty low drag brake, very minimal. And if you hit that channel 4, you can see it lights up on the ESC, and now we have a ton more drag brake. What a huge difference. Very cool. And then again, completely disconnects from the rear on that. I love that there's options and that you can play with that stuff. Very cool. One of the cool things about the Hobby Wing setup is that adjustable drag brake on the fly. Yeah, such a difference. So when you're really hardcore rock crawling, just flip that on and you'll have a ton more drag brake. If you're out trailing, then you can just turn it off and it won't be quite as impactful. Very cool. And then our channel 4 and our channel 5 are open, as well as the LED. The LED doesn't turn on or off. I tested with this little LED light bar here. There's no on and off for the LEDs. It's just always on. And then again, you can plug this into any of the other channels, 5 or 6 and the LED, but it's always on. And there's no like reverse or braking or anything like that. So I just assume this LED is just a slot for LEDs, or maybe this transmitter's not doing anything with it, but it's a thing. Now, as far as these dip switches for the drag brake go on here, I kind of wonder if they have an impact now that I know that you have on the fly here. They kind of feel like they do not have any kind of impact on the drag brake. So just know your dip switches here for your drag brake don't actually do anything. I know it does on the 2-in-1 combos. If you have like a 2-in-1 combo, those will adjust your drag brake, but I believe they're using your channel 4 here for your drag brake adjustment. Now, as far as being able to actually adjust that, you'd have to go in and you'd have to program your ESC here using one of the Hobby Wing programmers to adjust the different settings for your drag brake and things of that nature. Now, forward brake reverse, let's see if that works. Forward brake, nope, just forward reverse. So no difference on the forward brake reverse either. So the only things that are really going to matter are going to be your reverses for your channel 5 and 6. If we were to throw the servo into channel 5 and 6, this will reverse that. But the drag brake and the forward brake reverse, you have to change those settings in the ESC itself. One thing to point out, whenever you turn the truck on, your rear half dig or front wheel drive setting is always going to be like that. You have to manually turn it on. The default is basically on. Actually, you know what? You might be able to. Let's see, channel 3. Can we reverse channel 3? How do we reverse our channel 3? We don't have a reverse for channel 3. Because if you were to reverse it, you would... yeah, you'd be able to do that. Also, same with the drag brake. You're always going to have no drag brake until you turn it on in your setting, right? Now you might be able to switch it here on the dip switch. No. Oh, there we go. No, it's actually not reversing the channels. Oh yeah, it is. At least for your channel 4 here. So if you want, you can always flip that dip switch and you will have drag brake. Yeah, we like that. I like that. That way that we don't have to turn it on every time. There we go. So now our drag brake is naturally always on, and we can turn it off if we want to turn it off. And you can reverse that based on how you feel you want to drive. But unfortunately, channel 3 is always going to be off when you start, because there's no way to reverse it on here without going into your settings. I wonder, maybe we'll look into that at some point. You could always move it to a different channel, right? You could always move your channel 3 servo and move it to channel 5 or 6, and that'll change. And then you can do it based on that, because it's a physical switch versus just a momentary switch. So that's always an option as well, which I think I might do. I'm going to switch it to channel 6. So we're going to move our channel 3 over to channel 6. Channel 3, move it to channel 6. Now, mind you, it is in a 3 position now. You just want to make sure that your endpoints are proper if you're going to mess with that. But you can do that. And then it's just right here. Middle, all four, and back is dig. Yeah. And channel 4 is still our drag brake. Another thing to point out, we have reverse rotating drive shafts. See that? See how they're counter rotating? So the front one is rotating this way and the rear one is rotating the opposite. That's going to help prevent torque twists. So I love that they did that. Yeah, will definitely help with the torque twist, especially when you have kind of a soft suspension like this that articulates a lot. Trucks tend to torque twist more with softer springs and lay down shocks. So that's going to definitely help not have torque twist. Looking good, looking good. Just another example of that drag brake. If we were to drive up onto my hand, you can see I can just let go and it'll drop down. But if I turn on that drag brake, now it doesn't do it. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start comparing some stuff. Again, we've got the Venture 18 here, the Hilux. Now this guy looks a lot smaller just from a scale standpoint because it's a smaller cab. But the funny thing is this actually has a little bit longer wheelbase. So we will go ahead and compare here. You can see there's just a little bit longer wheelbase. This is that extra 4 millimeters, I believe, that they're talking about. Obviously has much bigger tires. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and measure these tires. I'm curious, do they say on them? Oh, they do say they're 68 by 24.5s. 68 by 24.5, 1.3s. Let's just double check that. I'm looking closer to 67, maybe 67 and a half, but yeah, 67, 68 millimeters. They're labeled as 68 millimeters, so that's cool. But yes, a little bit longer, just a tad. And then it looks like the hexes on here are also wider. So we're looking a little bit wider on the stance. Okay, I can go ahead and pull off a rear axle here, or a rear tire. Check out the rear axle and see if it's actually different. So these axle shafts are different. Look at that, a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and measure. The Hilux is right at 114 and a half. And the comp right at 122 and a half. So we are 8 millimeters wider, 4 per side. So yeah, okay, that's good to know. Let's go ahead and, I'm curious about the actual wheelbase distance. I'm just gonna go diff cover to diff cover here. Oh no, I'm not long enough. That's annoying. We can measure bottom links, I guess, here, just to see. So it looks like the original Venture lower rears are right around 60 and a half. Yeah, 60 and a half. And on this guy, we are definitely longer. Right around 66 and a half. Let's see our front. The original 47. Yeah, 47 millimeters it looks like. And then the comp right around 49. It looks like, yeah, 49. So 2 millimeters difference in the front there as well. Interesting. All right, well, good to know there's different lengths, both in the wheelbase width, the track width, and the wheelbase itself. Also, I just noticed we have the aluminum threaded caps here, whereas the original did not have the aluminum threaded caps. I don't even know if these caps, oh yeah, I think they just pop on. So the Bronco has the threaded caps as well. the second version. So it went here, Bronco, to this guy now. Awesome. Okay, let me go ahead and get this back together. I do want to point out that if you over tighten this guy, it will definitely bind. I feel like the hex is sitting more onto the axle than it is the pin. So I just kind of tightened it down a little bit and now it's completely stopped. So just be aware if you pull these off, make sure you back off your wheel nut a little bit so that you get a little bit of movement in there. Not so much that it's sloppy, but just make sure you've got a little bit of play in there back and forth so you're not binding in your actual axle. Okay, there is a little bit of play in here, and I think it's just due to the nature of this transmission. Maybe, I mean, you can see, let's see, if we hold the drive shaft here, that's the amount of play we get in the wheels. Okay, but then the difference between the front and the rear, look at that, the drive shaft, I'm holding the rear. You can see how much the drive shaft moves in the transmission there. And then same in the front. So quite a bit of play in that transmission, which is unfortunate. It feels like a portal setup almost. It'd be nice if HPI could address that a little bit. That's quite a bit of slop in that drive line. Which when you're crawling and you start to go up, and then like maybe you brake over or you let off the throttle, and it just like whoosh, lots of movement there, unfortunately. So definitely something they should look at if they ever go through and kind of visit their transmission. I kind of wish they would have done it here since they did the dig, but it is what it is. It's what we got. These little guys, tolerances, you have to get the tolerances so tight because they're smaller. It's definitely more difficult than on a larger scale truck. But yeah, that's pretty significant. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and compare to some more trucks. All right, let's go ahead and run through a couple other rigs here. We have the newest Red Cat Ascent Apex. This is a top crawler rig as well. They look like they're very similar in wheelbase length. The Apex is much wider though. It has some high offset on those wheels, definitely pushing them out and getting it super wide on the axle there. But you can see that the actual length in the wheelbase just about the same. I think I might give it to the HPI. I think the HPI is just a tad longer, just a little bit. You can see that. Okay, but I think they're comparable trucks for the most part. Especially the cabs, very similar. Next we have the Hobby Plus CR18P Pro. And again, this guy's on portals. It's a little bit wider. Again, has a very negative offset on the wheel, so that's pushing it out quite a bit. But yeah, you can see the size there. Steering angle. Look at the steering angle on the Red Cat. A little bit more on the Red Cat, but there's a lot more scrub on the Red Cat, which some people like a little bit of scrub, but I think the Red Cat does have almost too much scrub. You can kind of see when you line it up, look how far back that wheel goes. So that's pretty wild amount of scrub. Not necessarily ideal, but not always horrible. Just depends on how you drive, I suppose. Next we'll go to a totally different rig. This is an SEX24. Again, this is considered an 18. This is a 24, so it's really closer to a 20th. But again, the longest wheelbase SEX24 is the Gladiator. Very similar. Much more narrow axles, obviously. And then the short guy here. This is the shortest. The Lexus. Okay, and then same width on the axles. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. And I've got this custom built TRX 4M here. Nothing too crazy though. Very similar in length. Very similar in track width, a little bit wide. Again, very negative offset wheels that are pushing them all the way to the outside of the axle, whereas these are more of a positive offset. So that all the way to the wheel face, sucking them in, which is actually better. It reduces your scrub steer and stuff. So that's usually a better setup. But yeah, our TRX is on some wide Mias axles, so definitely wider than normal. Okay. And last, the UDIRC Snow Leopard, just because it was sitting here a little bit shorter. Again, they consider this 24 scale, so it's going to be a little smaller. Although the cab and everything looks basically the same. It's just a shorter wheelbase. And then our track width is very similar. All right, very cool. Do you see that rear link riser? That's awesome. Look at that. How cool is that? So you can adjust the angle of your output here and your anti-squat a little bit. Some really good triangulation going on there. Definitely helps prevent side-to-side movement in the actual axle compared to the skid plate here. It's all very stable because of that triangulation. And then take a look at this on the front axle. There's like a truss that's just added on. You can see it just kind of screws onto where the shock usually mounts, but it gives you 3 shock mounting positions there. So that's what's really getting this shock angle pretty extreme. So cool that there's adjustability there. And if you really wanted to, you could always remove that. And then you'd have to probably change your ball end here for your shock to get it to go all the way through. But you could always drop it all the way down to here. And that would give you a little bit more vertical shock, which will help stiffen the front end a little bit and maybe get rid of some of that potential torque twist. Awesome, guys. Well done. Also, semi-bendy on these. They're a little bendy. I wish they could be a little bit more bendy, but not too bad. I don't think they're going to break at least. So that's good. Pretty awesome. Looking great. Tons of shock adjustments. Yeah, buddy. Tires have foams in there, and they're vented in the wheels. Super, super soft compound. So I dig that too. Here's our wheel and tire all opened up. You can see there's foam in there. There is a brass ring also back here. I'll weigh them and show you at the end when I put them back together. But there you go. Vented brass ring, bead locks. Super sticky tires. The inside of these tires is so sticky. It's crazy. Like you can see, look, just like whoosh. All right, let me get these guys back together and then we'll do like weight on this guy and show you the weight distribution. Oh, and I do want to show that these tires are directional. You can see there's a little bit of a curvature to these inner lugs, and you can see they're going the opposite direction. So you want to make sure you're going the same direction when you're on the rig here. Okay, kind of, this is the front of your rig. And you can put them however you want, but I would just recommend at least making them symmetrical. I would not put it on like this, where one is going back and one is going forward, right? More like this is a better way to do it. So they're at least both going back, okay? Just know they're directional. Again, which direction you want to put them, that's up to you. But I would at least try to stay consistent. Actually, I figured some might ask, so we're at 21.37 grams on this. Yeah, 21.37, just in case you were wondering what the inner ring weighs. And while these are off, let's go ahead and weigh these guys. Looks like they're 9 extra grams, so an extra 18 grams on the front with these brass hexes, which is pretty awesome as well. All right, here's our 4-corner. It's like a total weight of 524. Yeah, 524. And then 55, 45. 55 front, 45 back, which seems pretty good. And then 51.49. Let's make sure we're settled. Yeah, 51.49. You got 51 on this side, 49 on this side. This is the side that battery's kind of on. So I'm sure that's a part of it. Yeah, you can see there. Battery in there, all plugged in. But yes, just a little heavier on the battery side. Not a big deal. Either way, good weight distribution right out the box. 55, 45, 524. Seems good to me. Now again, there is brass in the rear here, so if you really want to get more forward weight bias, you can just replace those brass rings in the 2 rear wheels with a plastic inner ring. You should be able to use any Hobby Plus stuff, so if you have another Hobby Plus or even the other Venture sitting around, I believe as long as they're the 1.3s and they're Hobby Plus or HPI, the inner ring should fit in there. But yes, worst case, you could always try to get some new inner rings and really get a more forward weight bias on this guy, which would be pretty nutso, again, for pretty much a stock truck, which is awesome to see. All right, let's go ahead and do a turn radius test here. This is without the dig or the half dig. Let's go ahead and see how far we get over here. Go ahead and mark that. And now we'll go ahead and turn the dig on. We marked it on the outside of the tire, and now we should get a better turn radius here. There you go, look at that. That's a pretty good size difference there between here and here. So it was here, now we're here. Seems good. So it does help a little bit, which is super nice, good to know. A true dig would have probably put this guy like right here, because it would have just spun around, but it's better than no dig at all, right? We'll have to see how it works on the rocks and how it feels. Something I did kind of want to point out, there is a little bit of torque twist that still happens. I don't know if you can see that, but the front torque twists a little even. I think it's just because the springs are so soft that it still just kind of tweaks itself, even though they're, oh wait, you know what? Probably because we have dig on. Hold on. All right, so you can kind of see there's still a little bit of, there's still torque twist in there. And I've got the dig off, so especially in reverse. A lot of that's gonna be because of the underdrive and the overdrive, the fact that there's a difference between the front and the rear. Look at that, still quite a bit. But if you do turn off or turn on your dig, whatever, make it front wheel drive only. It's still got a little torque twist there. I think most of that's coming from the underdrive and overdrive. And then I'll turn off dig, so we're back to four-wheel drive. You can see it lifts, and that's because the underdrive, right, the rear is going faster, so it's kind of pushing it back. It's causing the whole truck to come back onto the axle there in reverse. Let's turn it around and look at it. So if we under forward, it's gonna pull it down and tuck, but you can still see it lifts a little bit on this side, just a little. Again, that's mostly to do with the underdrive, overdrive. Turn on the dig so that we've got front wheel drive only. And it's not quite as bad, it looks like. I don't know, it's hard to tell, guys. Just know the softer springs and the underdrive, overdrive is definitely gonna cause it to kind of twist, even with counter-rotating drive shafts. Look at that. Let's go. That was awesome. Just figured we'd hit a couple lines here before we got into the action-packed running video. Just kind of show you what it's about. Let's go. It's looking good. Oh, that was me. That was me. We got it though. We got it. I feel like the throttle's just a little sensitive, but that's okay. Oh, this is nuts. What am I doing? I don't think I can even do this. Maybe? No, no way. I don't know why I hit it like that. There we go. Oh, got a little twist there. Oh no! Oh no!
Tiny gear turning on a mountain way. A small pulse hums against the sleigh. Electric veins alive in the stone. A crawler made mechanical bone. Signals and current talking control. Measured chaos makes it brushless heart, steady and bright, guided by touch through the fading light. The world looks down, it never sees. The smallest things bring giants to their knees. Turn the wheel, a circle of fate. Every ledge a choice you make. Hold your breath, let it cross slow. Patience is power. Let the current flow. Venture into the climb. Feel the hum, the sacred line. 3S in the veins, no fear, nothing. This little machine knows no shame. HPI, the rock, the dust. Faith and grip, torque and control. Weightless on the edge. Every crack a prayer, every slip a dare. Rubber meets the truth. No lies and traction, just living proof. And when it tips, so walls break apart. You rebuild, you restart. Because control was the only goal. Only to crawl and make you whole. Aluminum bones under trembling sky. Watch it climb.
And there we have it, the HPI Venture 18cc, or competition crawler. Such a cool rig, really cool features. I love the rear truss that's adjustable, those front shock truss that are adjustable, the rear disconnect. It's not really a dig. I kind of wish they didn't call it a dig. It's really just a rear disconnect or front wheel drive only, but it's very cool to play with. It is interesting because it doesn't function quite like a dig. If you're running up a hill and you dig it on the rear, which sometimes you'll do, but you do it on this, it's just going to break those rear tires loose and actually could cause you to slide or roll back down. So I did notice that a few times when we were running with the, trying to mess with the rear, but I think it's really useful in certain situations, but not quite as useful in others compared to like a true dig in that regard. But very cool. These tires went really, really well. These are the Rover tires. These are the same design as some older 2.2 and 1.9 tires that they've had. So it's cool to see these come back as well. But yeah, overall, the truck is awesome. The throttle is really, really smooth. I did feel like it was a little peppy at times. Like I'd give it a little bit of throttle and it would just kind of jump. But that's probably my throttle control. Also, if that really was a thing for you, you could always run it on 2S. That'll slow it down just a little bit. You still have tons of wheel speed, but you're going to get a little bit lower end modulation. But 3S is always awesome. So no problems there. I'm glad it's 3S capable and comes with the 3S battery. Super awesome. Again, a lot of awesome details in this thing. Even with the mirrors, I do kind of wish they were a little bit bendier, just because they kind of hit on rocks and you get caught on them, or a little smaller, or both bendier and smaller. I mean, they're not too crazy. I get what they're doing there. It looks cool, but you know, when you're doing a competition crawler, you really should be min-maxing it, you know, getting it as light as possible and as form factor for comp as possible, and capable. Speaking of the comp type stuff here, this angled skid, these high clearance links, all that super awesome. I was very concerned about the angle of the drive shaft here. The fact that the drive shaft kind of comes out at a extreme angle, but when you're sitting and you're at a normal ride height, it's actually not too bad. Although this is almost close to a point where you would want to do a carrier bearing if it was going to really be that extreme of an angle. Again, that's just a whole other thing. Nothing on an RTR yet, but someday that might be cool to see on an RTR, a carrier bearing dual drive shaft setup to kind of get an extreme angle, tons of high clearance there. But yeah, for being a stock rig with a stock kind of components, this is a very cool high angle, high clearance. And again, it doesn't bind up at all, so there's no worries there. Even when it's drooped all the way down, that drive shaft is nice and smooth. The other thing, the angle of the front axle, it's kind of hard to show with the wheels and tires on. It does angle forward just a little bit, which is not necessarily ideal. You kind of want your caster going the other direction and your servo kind of pointing up versus pointing down to get your steering link out of the way and kind of give you a caster that lets the tires grip over a ledge. So that's not exactly ideal, but that's kind of the nature of these axles. The drive shaft pinion kind of comes out very straight compared to the knuckle steering, I forget what it's called, the kingpin angle, essentially. So you have a little bit of caster, kingpin angle, like this, but then the actual servo is sitting downward and your links are very low. So that's kind of an issue too, but you'd have to totally redesign the axles. So I totally understand why they did not do that. But all your drive shafts nice and out of the way, which is awesome. Tons of adjustability. If you don't like it out of the box, you're definitely gonna be able to adjust it how you want. So I think HPI knocked this thing out of the park. I think it's a great competition to a lot of the other rigs out there. I know a lot of people are gonna be asking for comparison videos between this and the Hobby Plus CR18P Pro, or the Juice Up, and then the new Red Cat Apex. So those three trucks are kind of where it's at right now when it comes to this style of rig. And I know that Matt over at 2FMRC is going to be doing a ton of compare videos, so definitely check out his videos. And yeah, he does a lot of great stuff, and kind of similar to our channel where he does deeper dive stuff and gets real technical with the crawling. At least he does full narration of all of his crawl videos. So check out Matt at 2FM if you're interested in compare videos between the Apex and the Venture and the Hobby Plus, Juiced Up, and those guys. Maybe even the FearTech. I know he's got that as well. So definitely worth looking at that. I don't know if we'll do a compare video. Probably not, because like I said, Matt's already got it and he's killing it with that. So we're going to continue on with our deep dive, show you what's inside the truck videos. And I know we've got tons of new stuff from HPI coming. Already 2 more items on the way. They're not crawlers though, so that's going to be interesting. Definitely make sure you like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. That way, all of the videos that come out will come straight into your feed and you'll see them coming. Also, it's the best way to help support the channel unless you want to become a channel member. Speaking of channel members, huge shout out to all the current channel members. Again, they help support the channel by being members. They get perks for being members, and you can check out all the different perks. They get to see early videos. They get to see behind the scenes videos, no ads on the early videos. Also, priority comment replies. They have a special channel in our Discord. So if you're into Discord though, you should join that. Anybody can join the Discord. It's free, just like the like, subscribe, share, and notification bell. All that's free, and it helps support the channel. So get down in the comments below. Why don't you put line killer in the comments below? That way I know you watched all the way to the end. The HPI Venture is definitely killing lines out there. And I can't wait to see what the community does with these trucks and what they do with kind of that rear disconnect. That's such a cool feature and unique to this truck. No other truck out there has that for an RTR. I know some people have done some custom stuff, but that is not for everybody, and this RTR is. So definitely worth checking out. We had an absolute blast running this thing. Unfortunately, we had a ton of footage when we were running up on the river and whatnot. We had a ton of awesome, super epic footage, and we lost it all except for the beginning portion of the running video that you saw. So unfortunately, yeah, we didn't get all of the beautiful scenery that we wanted to in this one, but it's all good. I hope you enjoyed the running video anyway. Again, thanks to everybody for hanging out. Get out there and build something awesome. Build a car, build a course, build a community, and then smash it, crash it, and bash it. But don't break the expensive parts. Peace.